Hello and good day, eh? Welcome to the Super Good Camping Podcast. My name is Pamela.
I'm Tim.
We are from supergoodcamping.com. We are here because we're on a mission to inspire other families to get out and enjoy camping adventures, such as we have with our kids. Today's guest loves all things camping, especially backcountry, whether it's winter camping at Mew Lake in Algonquin Park or some peaceful paddling in the Killarney backcountry. He's out there often, and out there in our sense is not such a bad thing. He's often hanging with the cool kids too, like Martin Pine, Kevin Callan, and Sean Rowley, and the like. He was a teacher in a previous life and has also done a bit of public speaking. He's mostly known as the organizer of the Ontario Winter Camping Symposium and the Ontario Backcountry Canoe Symposium. Please welcome David Bain. Yay, welcome.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to say Dr. David Bain, but it's not.
You
it's
can.
Not Dr. Bain.
No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
We'll give you an honorary
degree.
I think it was David Banner is who I was thinking of, like the Hulk.
He's got a green hat, not green face.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's not make him angry, though. You don't know.
Well, okay, cool. For the record, the intro there had air quotes around winter camping in Mew Lake because you had an experience recently.
Wow.
Yeah, baby. How fun was that?
Well, I'll tell you. As everybody knows, a little background. I got into winter camping late in life. I got into canoeing late in life. I started canoeing when I was about 30, and I started winter camping 5 years ago or so. And the last 5 years, if you think back, we've had maybe two decent winters. One of them, the snow came in November and stayed in southern Ontario. That was pretty good. I don't recall if that was 2018. It was certainly pre-COVID. But we've had some just nasty freeze-thaw cycles. We'll get snow. It'll rain. My buddy Martin Pine and I have scheduled, I've lost count, 4 trips that we've canceled because of just the disastrous changes in weather. So I've learned 2 things. Number one, if you don't go, inevitably the weather turns out to be better than you thought it would. And number 2, you don't trust weather apps. So I looked at the Algonquin Park. Well, originally we were going to, Susan and I, my partner, were going to McGregor Point. And that being further south than Algonquin, it had forecast, highs of 10, almost an inch of rain, and so I thought, okay, I'll look further north. And people continue, especially people who live in the north, say Algonquin is in southern Ontario. It's not north. And it sure proved that this time. We, optimistically, the highs were only supposed to be around 6 and some drizzle. We thought we could handle it. We got there, unplowed site, so you couldn't see where the dips and dives were set up, and everything continued to melt. We had a couple of nice evenings, but on the second evening, I stepped on one of our foam puzzle piece sections in the hot tent, and the water started coming up through, and I realized we had a lake forming, and went outside, and there was on one side of the tent was like 4 inches of water on the sod cloth. And so we finally decided to call it a day. So we left New Year's Eve in the morning, and discretion was the better part of valor. But it's becoming the new normal, and you either have to head a lot further north. My friend Dave Hadfield just continually says, get north of Sudbury, and he's right. Or you just got to figure out a way to waterproof the floor of your tent. We thought we had a whole tarp system with sort of a bathtub going on, but somehow it leaked, and in came the water, and yeah, the rest is history. So we had an interesting time, but good times always had by all. We ate some good food and played some games and went for a couple of walks, but I mean, it was hard to walk in the slush and the melting snow, and things were challenging. So I know people who were at Mew Lake, they always enjoy themselves, but everybody was hoping for -10. -10's it's a good daytime high for winter camping. Everything's nice and dry and frozen solid, and you can walk everywhere and get some snowshoeing in. And yeah, it would have been nice, but next year,
Yeah.
things will work out.
Well, I know Dennis from Canoe Adventures said, the trips you remember the best are the ones that didn't go the way they were meant.
So it's that old
type
1, type 2, type 3 fun, right? So this was type 2 big time. It was, you think of, type 1, everything goes great and everybody, and as you said, it's not memorable. Type 2, you don't want to do type 3, that's extreme. But type 2, you'll talk about that trip for 10 years now. I remember the time we went New Year's Eve and we got flooded out. That's and we had great envy for the people who were in the trailers. They pulled in the fifth wheels and the 30-foot travel trailers, and they're sitting up watching Hockey Night in Canada and stuff. And we were swimming, but
yes,
oh well, such is life.
But did somebody I want to attribute it to Sean Rowley, but I'm not positive. But a river runs through it was a quote.
Yeah, big time. I don't believe in digging channels around your tent. I know it used to be a thing back in the day when you had no floor. But I chiseled channels in the ice that was around the tent, and we truly had rivers. There was no doubt about it. It was fast flowing, and things were really wet. Really wet.
Yeah. Well, pretty much everybody in the Facebook groups that excuse me, in the Facebook groups that we follow, at pretty much everybody that was up there was posting just like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
It's splash is the word of the day.
Yes.
Okay, cool. There's one you'll remember anyhow.
Oh, big time.
Question for you. So I did notice in doing some of the research that you were a teacher, because I saw an article that Kevin Callan posted where he had come and done a presentation in your classroom. What you used to teach?
So I was an elementary school teacher, grade 7 and 8 for 30 years. So when you're an elementary school teacher, you're a generalist. I loved and sort of specialized in English and Canadian history. If I got one or both of those every year, I was a happy camper. But I taught, like everybody else, you teach science, you teach, 1 year I covered a little bit of kindergarten. It was, you do what they ask you to do, and you hope. I taught music 1 year, but Canadian history was my thing. I've always had a love of Canadian history. And so grade 7 is right up, right in my wheelhouse. It's voyageurs, it's New France, it's the 7 Years' War, War of 1812. It's, all the things I love to talk about. So it fit really well with my interests outside of school. And, I formed a club, called it the Voyageur Club, took kids camping and canoeing back when you could legally still do that before liability things set in. And they can do that in high school still, but elementary school, it's almost non-existent now. But I used to take kids up to Cypress Lake, and we'd go canoeing on the Grand River, and just anything that kind of hooked them on my passions, history, the outdoors, that kind of thing. And plus, I'm an avid reader. I don't know, you can see behind me, I've got a huge library down here in the basement. So, teaching English was also a huge thing for me. So I was very fortunate. I got to do both those things most of my career, and really loved it. Loved the kids. Was a great career. And then retired in 2019, which was very smart on my part.
Good timing.
COVID kicked in,
Yep. You knew the pandemic was coming.
Yeah, I just sensed it was time to go. So
very good. And so, did the love of history inspire your backcountry adventures, or backcountry adventures inspired the love of history, or it was just?
I think actually the history had a big role to play in getting into canoeing. When you're teaching fur trade and voyageurs and stuff, and you don't canoe, which I didn't when I started, you're kind of left. I mean, you're excited about talking. It was a great topic, and so then why not start doing it? And the more you read, the more you realize. I mean, you get up into Killarney and the French River, you're starting to actually paddle the same routes.
There is, yep.
Yeah, and you go down the old Voyageur Channel, and you're exactly right where those huge Canoe de Maître went, and it's pretty awe-inspiring. So yeah, it all kind of worked together. My mother was a huge history buff, and she got me into Gray Owl when I was very young, very, very young. And told me about this guy, and I started reading his books, and that it's a very rich history that we have with the Aboriginal people, and that if you go canoeing anywhere in Ontario, you've got this. I don't know if you're familiar. This is it's an analogy I use. It doesn't work for everybody, but there's a certain type of medieval manuscript they used to write on vellum, of course. And what would happen is vellum's very expensive, so they'd get an old manuscript that nobody wanted to read anymore. They'd scrape it and write a new manuscript on top. And what happens is over the years, the old one, if it's not done right, will bleed back through, and you can actually read what was underneath it. It's called a palimpsest. And I've always thought of the canoe routes, or many of the canoe routes here in Ontario, that way. I mean, you go to the French River and you have today's conditions, it's a park. You go back 100 years, it was an industrial zone, logging. You go back another 100 years, it was a fur trade center. Through all that, you have the Aboriginal story and claims and connection to the land. And then prior to that, it was the explorers, although they really weren't exploring anything. People were already there, but the first Europeans to come in. I mean, you're paddling down the same river that Champlain and Brulé and came down, and then you go back further, and you have the Aboriginal presence, and they've been there since the glaciers retreated 8,000 years ago. So I mean, all of those layers are still there. Really hard to see some of them. The industrial is pretty obvious. Still a town site there. There's still rusting machinery, but the Aboriginal presence is sort of slowly perhaps coming back. There's all that you can experience and read in that one area. And then, go to Killarney, you've got Group of Seven, you've got Voyageurs, you've got Aboriginal people, you've got, the history of the town site and the fishing industry that was there. I mean, there's all those layers. And so I've always found that the canoeing, you could experience it on so many levels. I mean, you can just go for the weekend and just sort of get away from the city and fish and whatever. But if you want to, there's all those other layers you can dig into. I mean, if you think about it, I was sitting by a lake in Haliburton this past fall, and I'm solo canoeing. I was the only one around. And you look and you think, that lake has fish in it and has continuously had fish in it since the glaciers retreated. Those fish managed somehow to work up the spillways, work up the rivers, connecting the lakes while the water levels were higher. Then they got isolated in that lake, and their ancestors, their progeny, are still there. 8,000 years of continuous ecological, it's like sitting beside a pyramid or a museum or something. I mean, we think of it as, well, there's fish in the lake and that's today. But I mean, there's been fish in that lake for, millennia, and they're all connected. And the snapping turtles, the otters, I mean, that ecosystem, with interruptions and changes of climate and so on, has been continuously there for so long that it's pretty awe-inspiring to be able to experience that. I mean, I live in Kitchener. Not much history in Kitchener. There's some human history, there's some Aboriginal history, but I mean, you really got to work to find it's not as easy as if you go to the French River and things are still detectable, and you can experience it in such a meaningful and realistic way. So yeah, I would say that the love of history was a big part of me getting into the backcountry canoeing and camping, and then winter camping. I think winter camping was actually just a brief burst of insanity on my part. I don't know what got me into that. I actually had a buddy phone me up and he said, you mentioned one time you might like winter camping. I got a hot tent for sale. Do you want it? Okay. I'd never gone. I had no idea. So, and then I thought, how do I learn? How do, I didn't know I didn't even realize there were Facebook pages about winter camping. So I thought, well, I don't know. I run a canoe symposium. Why don't I start a winter camping symposium? I'll learn lots. So I did. And then so that's how I got into that. And yeah, it's worked out really well.
Cool.
Really
Get people to come and teach you. Sure. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sitting there listening to the same speakers everybody else does. So I listened to Jim Baird talk about hiking solo across northern Quebec. And while I may never do that, okay, I know I will never do that. But, you pick up a little tip here and a little thing there. And, oh, gee, I didn't know you could do that. And then you listen to, somebody else and they talk about, you listen to Martin Pine and you think, okay, that's how you dress and that's how you build a snow shelter. And you listen to Christina and that's how you build your own winter tent. And, and you pick things up from everybody. And that's really, and then you go and try it and inevitably fail miserably, but like at Mew Lake, but you learn,
That's exactly the phrase that popped into my head.
Move on.
Fail miserably.
Fail miserably. Yeah, absolutely.
But you learn from it.
You learn. Absolutely. Christina was nice enough to share some Crown land with me that I could hot tent on. And so I ended up doing my first solo. I have a little snow trekker solo tent and, I had that experience and I've done that a couple times now and very labor intensive, but, a lot of fun and always busy when you're by yourself. There's always something to do, it's no downtime when you're solo winter camping. So, I've tried that. I've learned to go in with my buddies. I'll take them in occasionally. Actually, tomorrow morning at 7:00, we're heading for Bruce National, Cypress Lake. It's not backcountry, but at that time of year, it's pretty isolated, and you get down on the coast, and it's a pretty special environment. So I'm looking forward to that. -19 apparently tomorrow with the wind chill up there because they have 70 km/h gusts expected. So we're going to have to dress warm to go hiking down on Georgian Bay. That's for sure.
Well, I think
looking forward to it.
I think even here in Toronto, they're calling, I don't think it's tonight. I think tomorrow, the night they're with wind chill, they're calling for -12, which is, I mean, we had rain today. So
exactly. It's all, the new normal, right? How do you dress for that? Obviously layers, but I mean, how many layers do you have to go? It's supposed to feel like -21 up there tomorrow night, overnight. So, we leave Kitchener and it's supposed to
in a t-shirt
feel like -6, but it's really -1. And you get to Tobermory and it's going to feel like -19. So, preparation, right? You gotta have the right equipment and know how to use it. So it's all a learning experience.
And there's part of the thing about winter camping. Zero experience, but I watched a bazillion videos and took Christina's course. The pulk, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Basically a hardcore toboggan type deal to lug all that gear in, and you're lugging, it's I'm sure that you try to pack light, but there's kind of no way around it. So you're just taking everything with you.
Kitchen sink, the whole thing. And I use a freight toboggan, which is 10 feet, but narrower, 15 inches. And, you struggle to get unless you're an ultralight type, right? Like there are people who go in and they'll just take a tarp or a little hammock camp, cold tent.
Yep.
Can't, no. I'm not doing that. So, by the time you got a stove and a canvas tent and the poles for the tent, you're already looking at some significant weight. So if you have any hills to go up, yeah,
Yeah.
you're working. You're working.
That's a slog. And if it's not packed snow and
yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, and if it is packed snow, the toboggan just wants to go the other way.
Oh, of course.
Really, really fast. So, I mean, they're incredibly slippery and pull really well on flat ground. But the minute you try and go uphill with them, yeah, you're really fighting gravity. So, what do? Do you unload half and sort of like a portage, take half of it up, go back for the rest? I've toyed with the idea of having sort of a short, I have a wooden toboggan sitting behind me. I don't know if it's down there on the ground.
Oh, yep. Yep.
See it? That I picked up off Kijiji for like, I don't know, $10. I'm thinking of cutting it so it's like a little caboose, and I'll just put the stove or something heavy on that, attach it to the back of my other one, and that way when I get to a hill I can unhitch one,
detach it. Yep.
Pull. Yeah. So who knows? It's
interesting.
Problem solving. So, yeah.
In a previous life, I used to do a lot of backcountry skiing, and we had skins for our skis, which were, for all intents and purposes, it going forward, it folded all the material so that it slid relatively well, and then when you started to push backwards on it, it would flip the material down and turn it into something that gave you grip, so you could alternate feet. I'm surprised they don't have something.
Well, I mean, we're either wearing snowshoes or we're wearing ice crampons, I guess you'd call them, or you've got your good old Ontario snowmobile boots at least.
Right.
So it's not so much your footing that's the problem. It's the toboggan.
But that's what I'm saying, for the bottom of the sled.
Oh, for the bottom of the sled.
Like the skins on that, right?
I actually, I don't know if you remember, there briefly was a type of cross-country ski that sort of had fish scales under it. Where it slid in one direction, but if it tried to go the other direction, there was a ridges cut kind of. I taught, I'll say that loosely, cross-country skiing to kids at Albion Hills Outdoor Ed Center way back in the 80s. That's where I met Kevin. He and I were roommates. And I mean, I had no idea how to cross-country ski, but, I was the adult, so I was supposed to teach them. But we had those. They were waxless, I guess, kind of skis. So, yeah, something like that might work. I don't know. I think that it's perhaps a question of what materials are available, but you're right. There should be something. I know some people have taken along pulleys and 100 feet of rope, and they go up and find a tree and use
and drag it up.
Mechanical advantage, go up and walk downhill and have the toboggan go past you going the other way. Something like that would work, certainly on a short, steep slope, or unload, carry half of it up, that kind of thing. There's always a way. There's always a way. It's just a question of, will we have any snow? That's sort of been the biggest headache lately. I mean, until you get a certain amount of snow, you can't pull through the bush because there's too many down trees and branches that aren't buried, and so you're tripping all the time, or you have to go around, and becomes a maze. It becomes impossible. So backcountry has been a bit of a challenge, and that's why we're going to Bruce National. It's like a way to get winter camping, hot tenting without going backcountry. But fingers crossed, by February, maybe we'll have some good snowpack and be able to get out again. Yeah.
Cool. Well, and there's an interesting one. I'm fairly, I pretty much only deal with Ontario parks. I didn't even realize the national parks did backcountry. I didn't know that they did winter stuff at all.
Yeah. So have you been to Bruce National ever, Cypress Lake?
No, I haven't.
So it is a landscape that is world class. Like if it existed in Greece or something, the super rich would flock there. But here it is in Ontario. And when I first went there, I went there in high school on a geography overnight, couple nights field trip, and 1977 maybe. And it was wild back then. Like it truly felt like you were in the middle of nowhere. These days, it's gotten a little overrun in the summer, and it's, they've widened all the paths and put in washroom facilities because they have to, even in the out of the way places and so on. But anyway, they have backcountry camping that you can book right on the shore of Georgian Bay, and now they have it available in the wintertime. It would be truly a hike to get to. Like the conditions, it's often you're walking on rock, and if it gets icy, I don't know what you would do, but people use it, and more power to them. I admire them a lot. And it's cold tenting because there are no fires in the backcountry allowed, and so you have to take a stove, and you don't have a hot tent. You don't have a hot tent stove, so it's hardcore. I'm not doing that.
I think I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's for young people.
Okay, cool.
Young and foolish, or just young?
Oh, young and adventuresome.
Adventures. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, more chutzpah than I have, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Starters, tell me what a symposium is. Define a symposium.
Yeah, I don't know. I was looking for a name. I did seminar. I don't know. So basically what happens is I start out in a theater. And so I just brought in speakers and sold some tickets. And I was inspired by the Wilderness Canoe Symposium. I guess that's where I stole the name. That's been running in Toronto for 40 years, 50 years now. I don't know, a long time.
Right.
But their focus is true northern rivers, north of the tree line, people doing the Thalon and, up in northern Quebec and so on. And I thought after I went and saw it, great day. They actually run Friday night and then all day Saturday. It's quite a marathon. And they'll have, 16, 18, 20 speakers. I don't know, quite a few, half hour each. I thought, well, there's room for people to talk about Algonquin and Killarney and Wabakimi and all the great parks that are further south. That the majority of people who canoe never go. I mean, I was fortunate enough to do the Nahanni myself, but most of us just don't have the resources, i.e., the money, to do that kind of thing, or can get the time off work,
or the time,
or whatever. Exactly. Right. So as a teacher, I had the time. So I was fortunate to go. Anyway, so they focus on those kind of trips. And I thought, wow, there's room to do something that focuses on the sort of closer to home. So I started up in a theater, 150 seats, and then moved to a 400-seat theater. And now recently, due to changes in what they use the theater for at the university, I had to find a different venue. And so now we have basically a 400 or 500 seat. I don't know, it holds quite a bit. Theater, but it's expanded. So we have still the same small number of speakers. I'll have 4 or 5, but we have vendors come in. We have nonprofits, and they set up tables. And so we'll have the Quetico Foundation and Friends of Temagami and the Turtle Rescue people, and just all kinds of people who we just invite them to come and set up a booth and talk to the audience during the breaks. We had a group that organizes at Mew Lake. They invite women only. They call themselves Freezing Women, and they go in November to Mew. They've gone, this past November was their 4th, I think, and they were up to 50. They had 50 more or less participants.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. So I said, hey, come on. Like, I only learned about them in September. I said, come on and set up a table and we'll push everybody in your direction. And whenever people asked questions about winter camping, I just say, hey, you got to talk to these ladies at Freezing Women. They're the ones who are introducing women to hot tenting, either car camping or backcountry or whatever you want to do. So anyway, that's part of what we do. And we get some gear vendors in and people selling sleds, Whiskey Jack, sleds and so on come. So we have a vendors sort of area, and we have our speakers, and we call this symposium. call it whatever you want.
No, it's a good. I just
Fun day.
It's interesting because nobody else says symposium. It's
well, and we still talk
show.
about, do I have like 2 symposiums or do I have 2 symposia or what? No one knows.
What's the plural?
So, yeah, I have no idea. Nor do I want to know. That way I can just have fun with it. So
cool,
yeah,
cool.
so this will be the 11th. We missed 1 year during the COVID, and we did a virtual. So we missed 2 live ones, but we started in 2012, and this will be our 11th. No, that doesn't make sense. We started in 2011. This will be our 11th, and then we started up the winter camping one and got 3 in, and then COVID hit, and we didn't do virtual or anything there. It's a smaller sort of select group, so we just put it on pause, and then we started up again. Had one last November, so we've done 4 of those. So I guess altogether I'm at 15 or something like that. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
It keeps you out of trouble.
It does. Keeps me busy.
Yeah.
Keeps me out of trouble. Exactly.
I can't imagine. I mean, having both been on Dennis's show, I mean, it's a thing that he reiterates often enough. It's stunning just how much work it takes to do all the things that we all do. Like, it's, people go, yeah, cool, and I showed up, and because I'm sure it only took a phone call to get whoever the polk guys in and the tent guys in, and no, it didn't. It took 47 emails each.
Exactly. And as I often say to people, like, I send out 10 feelers, and then I get 4 or 5 speakers, but all of a sudden I get 7 speakers, and I have to go, okay, well, hang on a sec now. Too many of you said yes, and okay, I like you better than I like you, so I'll pretend you answered first, and I don't know. It's just, it's a lot of work. I have a gentleman, Matt Olson. I don't know if you know Matt. He volunteered out of the goodness of his heart 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago maybe. He said, why don't I take your social media off your hands? And so he's come in and done that, and then he became the vendor liaison, so I can focus on the speakers and the tickets and that kind of thing. And I host I'm desperately looking for another host so that I could just enjoy the day, but nobody seems to want to step up and do that job. So I'm still doing that too. But no, it's a wonderful thing, and it's all about networking and getting the community together. And you see people you don't see any other time of the year, just like at the Outdoor Adventure Show. But I mean, this is a little more intimate. We're all sort of in one place for the whole day. There's all these distractions. We all sit and listen to somebody. We all go to lunch at the same time, talk to everybody. It's kind of a more of a network thing.
Cool. Okay, so here's a quick invitation. We're going to bring you back in the fall if you're amenable to it, and we'll talk way more about the symposiums.
Hey, symposia anytime.
Symposia, very good. All right, Pamela's going to do our outro.
That's it for us for today. Thank you so much to our special guest, David Bain. I'm Pamela.
I'm still Tim.
And we are from supergoodcamping.com. Please do reach out to us on all the social media. And our email address is hi@supergoodcamping.com. That's hi@supergoodcamping.com. Talk to you again soon. Bye.